They buried him on a quiet evening when the sun dipped low and the graveyard shadows stretched like fingers across the soil, because everyone believed Daniel Harper was dead. His heart had stopped after a sudden collapse. The doctor checked twice, but not long enough. Grief rushed decisions, and by nightfall his body lay sealed inside a polished coffin beneath 6 feet of earth, yet death had not claimed. Daniel only trapped him in a deep, unmoving silence. And hours later, in absolute darkness, his mind clawed its way back to awareness as his lungs screamed for air, and panic surged when he realized he could not move. Freely, his fingers brushing satin instead of air, his breath echoing too loudly in a space far too small. And when the truth finally struck that he was buried alive, terror unlike anything human flooded his body, his heart hammering against ribs that threatened to crack as he beat his fists against the coffin lid until his skin tore and blood soaked the lining. But no sound reached the surface, no help came. Only the suffocating weight of soil pressing down like the world itself wanted him gone. And as oxygen thinned and time lost meaning, something changed in the darkness. Because beneath his frantic breathing he heard another sound. Faint at first, almost imagined, a slow scraping beneath the coffin as though nails were dragging through packed earth. Deliberate and patient, and when the coffin shifted slightly, his breath caught in his throat, because soil does not move with intention. Fear twisted into something colder when the scraping grew louder, closer, followed by a soft knock from below. A knock, slow and measured, as if something intelligent was announcing itself, and in that moment Daniel remembered the stories whispered by old men and half-forgotten books, tales of things that lived between burial and decay, things that waited for bodies not fully claimed by death. And as his terror peaked, a voice seeped through the wood beneath him, calm and intimate, telling him he was lucky, telling him it had been waiting a long time for someone who could still breathe, still choose. And the coffin creaked as pressure pushed upward from the earth, wood splintering as fingers forced their way inside, fingers too long, joints bending wrong, skin cold and damp like clay pulled from a riverbank, touching Daniel's ankle and sending a shock of revulsion through his body as he kicked and screamed silently, his mind fracturing under the realization that he was not alone in his grave. And the thing spoke again, closer now, explaining that it did not kill, did not take, only entered those who invited it, those who gave up, those who opened themselves in the final moment. And as Daniel's vision blurred from lack of air, and the coffin filled with the smell of wet soil and decay, desperation overtook fear, his lungs burning, his thoughts unraveling. And when the thing climbed fully into the coffin with him, folding into the space impossibly, whispering promises of survival, of escape, of rising again, Daniel made a choice that damned him. He stopped fighting, opened his mouth, and inhaled. And 3 days later, when graveyard workers heard violent scratching from beneath the soil and dug in terror, they found the coffin shattered outward, the grave torn apart from the inside, and Daniel Harper standing at the edge of the hole, alive, uninjured, smiling with unsettling calm as he thanked them for saving him. Yet none of them noticed the deep drag marks leading back into the earth, or the way his shadow moved a fraction too slowly. And in the weeks that followed, the town began to change as people heard knocking beneath their floors at night, whispers rising from the ground, calling their names, pets refusing to go near the graveyard, and every funeral ended with soil settling far too quickly. Because Daniel Harper had returned, yes, but what wore his face no longer feared death, and whatever climbed out of that grave was still hungry, still waiting, still listening for the sound of breath trapped underground.